Hello, good morning, afternoon, evening to everyone, and welcome to today's session on the C20 Summit, where we are addressing enhancing CSOs sustainability through innovative financing. My name is Hakim Elwar. I'm the advisor to the president of the Islamic Development Bank on global advocacy and also the Sherpa to the G20. So I'm quite well connected to the G20 ongoing, including the Civil 20 C20 engagement group. Today we'll have a number of speakers for our panel that I will introduce later. But let me just start by realizing that we're working under the G20 goal for 2020, realizing opportunities for 21st century for all under the Saudi Arabia presidency. And we're proud to work towards achieving that goal all together. So welcome today all civil societies, philanthropies, representatives of governments, ladies and gentlemen. We'll start our session today with a few opening remarks, a statement from Amadou Thierno Diallo, who is the Director General for Global Practices at the Islamic Development Bank. Amadou has been quite serving the Islamic Development Bank for some time and served in different assignments, the latest of which he's also been a director for Economic and Social Infrastructure Department. So Amadou, over to you.
Thank you, Hakim. Thank you very much for. Let me also thank the organizers for inviting me to speak on behalf of the Islamic Development Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and participants, good afternoon, and good afternoon wherever you are in the world. On behalf of the Islamic Development Bank, it is a great pleasure and honor to welcome you all to this important discussion on enhancing civil society organizations' sustainability through innovative financing, organized by the Islamic Development Bank in conjunction with the C20 Summit, the biggest virtual gathering of civil society leaders and change makers in the G20 process. The aim of this session is to discuss innovative ways of diversifying and raising funds for CSOs work in an increasingly competitive environment where funding for projects has continued to decrease over time. First, I would like to thank the C20 Summit organizing team and the ISDB for the excellent and smooth organization and great coordination. I also extend my thanks to the participants and our esteemed speakers who are going to deliberate and enlighten us on this critical topic today. IDB 57 member countries face numerous socio-economic challenges, including poverty, fragility, violent conflict, and disasters. Addressing them requires consolidated and coordinated effort of all actors, including government, civil society, and donors. At the Islamic Development Bank, we believe that civil society organizations are key players in development. They have a comparative advantage in reaching communities and most vulnerable groups with a range of services. Indeed, the role of CSOs is critical and very effective to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Today, in an increasingly competitive environment in which CSOs operate, traditional and classical approaches to mobilizing resources to finance projects and the reliance on donor funding are no longer sustainable. While domestic resource mobilization and international commercial flows are growing rapidly, they are not equally available to all. According to the UN estimate, there is a gap of $2.5 trillion of development investment to achieve SDGs agenda. Therefore, it is necessary to find innovative finance mechanisms that can play a critical role in mobilizing resources to reduce this financing gap. One such innovation financing mechanism is crowdfunding, which is estimated at $10.2 billion and expected to reach $28.5 billion by 2025. Since its inception, the IDB Group has been active in supporting CSOs to contribute to the national development strategies, plans, and goals of their respective countries. The bank has approved around $145 billion for over 10,000 projects for its member countries and in non-member countries. In addition, the IDB has also a specific NGO program providing over 264 grant-based projects to local NGOs to complement the government effort in education, health, agriculture, poverty alleviation, economic empowerment, women empowerment, and youth development. The CSOs have also received funding amounting to around $3 billion in addressing humanitarian issues and providing basic social services in countries affected by human-made and natural disasters. Ladies and gentlemen, the global challenges are unlimited resources to support the hard-to-reach and most vulnerable groups necessitates finding innovative and out-of-the-box solutions. That is why the Islamic Development Bank has introduced several innovative initiatives transforming the traditional approaches to unleash the potential of civil society engagement in member countries. In this endeavor, the bank has recently adopted the civil society engagement policy, which calls for the CSOs to diversify their sources of finance and deploy a range of options for mobilizing resources, including innovative and non-traditional financing mechanisms. The policy also considers innovative financing mechanisms under the IDB and the ISFD NGO Empowerment for Poverty Reduction Program, deploying crowdfunding platform, alternative financing, private sector, and philanthropist engagement. Enhancing CSO sustainability and their impact on the community through innovative financing is in line with the G20 goal of realizing opportunities of 25th century for all, and its objective to advance international cooperation and ensure inclusiveness by widely engaging relevant stakeholders, including civil society from across the region, to achieve the SDGs. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take this opportunity to thank the distinguished speakers who accepted our invitation despite their busy schedule and time difference to share with us their wealth of knowledge and expertise in this significant and timely topic. I'm sure that this session will provide important and relevant recommendations that will contribute to the effort to find these innovative solutions to address global development challenges. Finally, I would like to thank the colleagues at the Human Development Team in the IDB, as well as the C20 Summit team for their dedication and hard work that brought together a diverse group of speakers to enlighten us and educate about how CSOs can consider innovative ways to sustain their financing. I wish you a successful discussion, and I look forward to the outcome of this important gathering. Thank you very much.
Amadou Tierno Diallo, the Director General for Global Practices and the Chief Economist of the Islamic Development Bank, thank you for setting up the stage, raising some of the issues that would be fruitful for the discussions afterwards. And I guess we will hear more from the activities the Islamic Development Bank is engaged in from Abdi later on when he comes on the panel. So with that, let me move to the panel. And here we will be focusing on opportunities, challenges, perspective, experiences, and best practices of innovative financial models and enhancing partnerships and resource mobilization for non-traditional partners. There are some of the objectives Amadou Tierno Diallo has alluded to that I would like to highlight because they're like our contract with the audience and what we are aiming to achieve out of this discussion with all the participants. I think we are aiming at exploring challenges, opportunities, and strategies related to civil societies, organizations, financing to enhance their sustainability through innovative financing. So that is one aspect very important to bear in mind. Discuss and highlight the important role of governments and donors in sustaining the interventions of the CSOs and philanthropies, as well as share practical experiences, successes, and best practices of CSOs and philanthropies. What works, what doesn't work, related to the innovative and alternative financing modes. So with that, we know what we're heading to or where we are heading to with these discussions. And let me start by inviting our first speaker, Juan Luis Gallego. He is the head of new financial models at the International Committee of the Red Cross. He's been serving for quite some time at the Red Cross and served in a number of stations in Africa and other parts of the world, including Latin America. before he is engaged at the ICRC headquarters on developing new modes of financing that supports CSOs through the ICRC program. So Juan, you have the floor, but let me, before I give you the floor, just to announce to all the audiences that we have some of the rules. We try to maintain the time, but we also were looking forward for their engagement. So there is a chat with the Zoom system where you audiences can post your questions on the chat. We will see them and we'll try to address as much as we can given the tight time that we have. And I may be able to take some of the questions following the speakers. So we also keep you engaged as we go. So do not hesitate to post your question while the speaker is speaking. Abdul Majid Abdullahi, he is our division manager for Human Development Division at the Resilience and Social Development Department of the Islamic Development Bank. Abdul Majid has been involved with the quite some time on supporting civil societies in the Horn of Africa and a number of places, as well as engagement in resource mobilization at global level. So with that, Abdi, I'll give you your 6 minutes allocation, if you can share with us your thoughts around the same topic of this session today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Al-Wa'id. I would like to first thank the C20 team and the Islamic development team who have enabled us to get together today to discuss this very important topic. I will be very brief, give you a snapshot on why we need to change, what are the challenges that we are facing that really drives us to get out of the box and find innovative solutions. And I will share a light on some of the innovative efforts of the bank, as well as also finally give you a key message that might be important for the audience. First of all, there are critical challenges that our member countries, ISDB, which has 57 member countries that falls in Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, and the Middle East faces. Globally, this challenge is also across countries, particularly developing and the developed countries. One of the critical challenges that's relevant today is there is a limited financing available for the humanitarian and the social sector that are critical to address this growing challenge. And this necessitates us to think and come out solutions that are really innovative and transformative, that can be adaptable to today's cutting edge technology. On the other hand, you have the role of the civil society organizations, which is increasingly becoming critical when it comes to addressing development challenges in our member countries, as well as also globally. If you look at the OECD report, around 20 billion of the overseas development assistance was channeled through civil society organizations, according to OECD. And that role really has significantly increased because of the demand for development support and financing across communities, including civil society organizations, as well as MDBs, UN agencies, and other actors. So the Islamic Development Bank, addressing that challenge, have first developed its first civil society engagement policy, which is in a way setting the stage for a systematic engagement with civil society organizations that we have been dealing as have been eluded and well elaborated by the Terno Diallo, the Director General of the Global Practice. We have been dealing with them, but not in a systematic way. We have been supporting the development programs and projects through CSOs, and lately we realized that if we don't have a systematic policy and a structured a strategy and policy to deal with civil society organizations, we will not be able to effectively support those institutions to participate in their development programs and projects. The policy has 4 pillars. Critical pillar, which is relevant to our topic today, is diversifying sources of financing. Traditional approaches, classical approaches, mobilizing resources for civil society through donors, through governments, are no longer, actively or effectively addressing the fast needs of the most vulnerable groups that have been affected by conflict and other compounded crises. So what we came out with that we said we need first to diversify, help the CSOs to diversify, number one. Number two, help the CSOs to be innovative, because without innovation, it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to address the growing challenges that the member countries are facing. So innovation in terms of delivery, innovation in terms of financing, innovation in terms of getting out of the box solutions that can be scaled up is critically necessary to achieve a sound, sustainable development goals as indicated in the SDGs. So with that policy, now we are thinking to support those organizations, and as a part of the outcome of the policy and also ongoing efforts within the bank, we have introduced it. The bank now is currently working on different approaches and programs and financing instruments that supports these efforts. Number one is the NGO Empowerment for Poverty Reduction Program, which purely targets to empower civil society organizations in the 57 member countries. We are going to map the civil societies across IDB member country, and then strengthen their capacity, ensure that they have a sound and a strong capacity to participate and contribute to the development of their respective countries, introduce sustainable financing mechanism through crowdfunding, and we are jointly working with Islamic Solidarity Fund, which is our IDA type of the World Bank, supports poverty alleviation programs and poor projects that are directly supporting the most vulnerable groups in our communities in the member countries, as well as the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. So that program has introduced an innovative idea called Tadamun platform, an international aggregated Tadamun. Tadamun, by the way, Arabic is solidarity, bringing all actors.
A minute to conclude.
Yeah, so that I think is very important. And then we have the Ihsan Waqf Sukuk. So to give you a snapshot on Tadamun platform, which will be explained further by my colleagues from the UNDP Marina, is this the website and the link that all the NGOs have to register and contribute. So please feel free to visit this website so that you will be able to register as we go along. One of the idea also that will contribute to long-term financing is Ihsan Waqf Sukuk, introduced by Islamic Solidarity Fund, which encourages civil societies to participate. More recently also, we have introduced One Wash Fund, which purely targets on the civil society organizations and the other actors who are contributing to development in terms of WASH programs. We have Tadamun Pandemic Accelerator Program, which has a window that calls for open calls for CSOs, as well as also donors and philanthropists to participate. Well, these are the messages that there are three important messages. Number one, and I think this is one of the things that our approach needs to change so that we will be able to adapt to the new environment. And COVID-19, I think that accelerates that we should have that mind, that change and innovation. Second, we need to strengthen the institutional capacity of the CSOs to have a sound strategic planning to mobilize resources in different areas globally. We need to capitalize the existing facilities within the bank, like Waqf Endowment Fund, like Ihsan Waqf Sukuk, which will enable the CSOs to have long-term sustainable funding. So with that, Abdul Hakim is asking me to conclude. So with that, I will come back if there are any other further questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abdul Majid. I think that is a great start for the Islamic Development Bank related activities with the CSOs. There's a lot definitely there to share in very short time, and we expect the audiences to come back with more questions on your topic. Let us go back to Juan. I think I hope he's back connected now. Juan, are you there? Okay, great. I've introduced Juan earlier. He is the head of new financing models at the International Committee for the Red Cross, a very well established and known and credible institution worldwide. Juan, we knew ICRC in war and conflict zones, on the ground interactions, but very little we know about financing engagement in mobilizing resources and looking at new models. I hope in the next 5 to 6 minutes you can share with us the other face of ICRC that we don't normally know. Over to you.
All right. Hakim, thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm delighted to be here. Can you see my screen?
It's clear.
Okay, super. So I will follow a similar structure to the one Abdullahi followed. Very quickly, as you were indicating, the ICRC is a very old lady, over 150 years old, and we tend to work in conflict environments. As you were saying, yes, indeed. Traditionally, the ICRC works on the basis of grants, the great majority of which come from government. As I think some of you or most of you know, the ICRC launched in 2017 the Humanitarian Impact Bond, which was the first of its kind and actually the largest impact bond outside the US, and I think the second largest ever. The idea of the Humanitarian Impact Bond is to support our physical rehabilitation programs in a number of places in Mali, Nigeria, and DRC. So it was our first attempt, but the question is, why is the ICRC exploring innovative finance or mechanisms or new financing models, as we call them? I think there are two main reasons. Number one is that we are looking to develop new ways of working, and I will come to this point. But this is of the essence. Innovative finance, in our perspective, is mostly about new ways of working. What do we mean? We mean we need to, we're speaking about longer term approaches, partnerships, a certain scale, outcomes based, innovation, efficiencies, etc. And based on that kind of value proposition that is different from the traditional humanitarian emergency and much needed value proposition, with that value proposition in hand, you can outreach to different types of stakeholders, including development actors and corporate partners, and come up with innovative financing solutions to very specific problems. So why are we doing this? Because we're exploring more sustainable ways of working, and because certainly we're interested in bringing additional resources to bear to humanitarian needs that go unmet. In addition to the impact bond, we've been exploring other types of mechanisms over the past couple of years. We've been working with some of our corporate partners like Munich Re and Lombard Odier to explore insurance type of mechanisms, other impact bonds or outcomes-based mechanisms. We actually teamed up with Save the Children for an interesting project in South Sudan around access to education, which didn't work, but not because of Save the Children, but because it was probably too much innovation for the ICRC to swallow in one go, in terms of scale, partnerships, education, and everything. So there were a few lessons learned there. But the collaboration with Save the Children was certainly much appreciated. We are now engaged particularly on a big project in Goma, DRC, around access to water. This is a 42 million project. We are engaging with a number of stakeholders, including the World Bank, but also our private actors, the Dutch government, of course, the Congolese authorities, and a number of other partners. We're also looking at.
If you are changing your slides, we don't see them. We are stuck on only the first slide.
Okay, I'm getting there. Okay, I'm getting to the next slides. So yeah, we're working on a number of mechanisms, and I would perhaps just like to focus on for a minute on what are some of the lessons learned. Number one is that when you're speaking about innovative finance, you need to start with the goal. What is the problem you are trying to achieve, and why would you need a financial mechanism, and what mechanism would be suitable to the problem you're trying to solve? That would be lesson number one. Lesson number two is that, as I was saying before, innovative finance, new finance models have two legs. Again, one is around a different value proposition, and second is around the financial add proposition in terms of value add. Third lesson is that impact bonds are one tool in a toolkit of innovative financing mechanism that encompasses, from blended finance to insurance type, contingent, etc. So again, the mechanism needs to be suited to the problem you are trying to solve. a very important conclusion is that, when we did the HIB, we weren't ready for it. And our partners weren't ready either. So one of the key angles of attack we've been investing a lot of time and effort over the past couple of years is around building organizational readiness within the ICRC, but also with our partners. And actually, we did an important piece of work with the Boston Consulting Group, supported by Switzerland and ECHO, that identified 5 major areas around organizational readiness that different institutions like ours or the Islamic Development Bank or the World Bank or governments or others need to take into account to actually deliver in terms of innovative finance in humanitarian or fragile settings. And those 5 areas turn around mandate, organizational support, systems and procedures, resources, and actually putting some bit of money where your mouth is, and capacity to implement some of these mechanisms. There's quite a bit of a stretch between wanting to do innovative finance and being able to do innovative finance. Maybe just one more point in terms of lessons learned is that it does take time to build a market like this, because again, we're as a humanitarian organization, what we're speaking of is deploying innovative financing mechanisms in humanitarian settings. Not necessarily the most difficult, but certainly environments where the ICRC will be or has been working for decades. So it does take time to build a market like any other industry. Maybe just to wrap up, a few key messages. So in our perspective, NFMs are a set of tools that enable collaborative approaches and new ways of working, and at the same time the capacity to mobilize additional resources. Second is that in new financing models, innovative finance require organizational readiness, and that most organizations lack at this point in time, this organizational readiness. And finally, that for innovative finance to succeed in the settings the ICRC works, then all the different stakeholders, they have to explore and test specific deals, transactions, build their organizational readiness, and contribute to build the market. So we think those are the 3 areas of focus. Put deals on the table that are going to push the envelope, build organizational readiness, and 3, contribute to build the market.
Juan, thank you very much. This is an interesting and important aspect to see ICRC really shifting to a different innovative way of delivering business. Their mandate is very well appreciated, very well taken by all societies worldwide. As you said, with over 100 years old, it must be that not everybody knows what exactly you're doing, but engagement into mobilizing resources. I think you have a vast network of outreach to the societies at the grassroots level, and you're probably aware of the problems and the challenges, and maybe it has inspired with I'll come back to you later to tell us why did all this happen? Why have you thought about it? Is it because you saw the needs and you could not fulfill the needs of those societies, and that you realize that you need some extra resources for you to deliver? Now I'll stop there with Juan. Thank you very much. And let me see a different angle to CSO's business. We've seen global ICRC, we've seen the regional or sub-regional or multi-regional with the Islamic Development Bank. I want to move to a national way of setting at a country level. We are honored to host today Raden Siliwanti. She's the Director for Multilateral Funding Cooperation at the Ministry of National Development Planning, Bappenas in Indonesia. So Raden, I hope you can give us that view that we wanted to see. How does the government engage with the civil societies, and how the government can support civil societies, mainly with the focus on financing models. So over to you, Raden.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Abdul Hakim. So thank you for Islamic Development Bank and G20 Secretariat for hosting this panel discussion and for inviting the government of Indonesia to share our experience and best practices. I myself involved in the G20 Development Working Group process, and I'm glad to inform you that the topic of innovative financing is actually one of our main priorities there, and it has been covered in the deliverable of financing for sustainable development frameworks. So I will begin with slide 4. So I think that as we all may know, the SDGs financing gap is a global issue that remains to be resolved. So from our analysis in 10 years periods from 2020 until 2023, Indonesia at least needs a total of 1,689 billion US dollar until 2000, around 2,000 billion US dollar from non-government sources to achieve the SDGs target, with non-government financing gap at 404 billion US dollar until 702 billion US dollar. To resolve the non-government financing need for the SDGs, Indonesia developed innovative financing initiative for SDGs, which emphasize on collaborative efforts with every stakeholder to untap potential financing. As you can see in the slide, we have identified potential financing resources both from public and private and from domestic and international. Now, I would like to discuss about the roles of stakeholder in Indonesia in Indonesia SDGs platform. The slide 8 shows how various stakeholders are interlinked in contributing toward SDGs achievement at national and regional level. This role stipulated in the government regulation number 59 2017 on SDGs implementation. There are 4 main groups of stakeholders with different but interlinkages role. The government and also the philanthropy, business group, private sector. And I would like to mention for today's discussion, the CSO and media role. They have the main role to increase public awareness, to monitor the implementation, advocacy, as well as program facilitation and implementation. Indonesia has a long journey to arrive to this current situation, to collaborate among stakeholders, including with CSOs. Maybe more than 15 years of experience to keep our communication and collaboration with CSO. Yes, many issues, problems, and challenges has been faced by the government until now. In the slide number 9, Indonesia government engagement with CSO, Indonesia has recognized that constructive engagement and collaboration with civil society organization is an important ingredient toward achieving better governance and realizing sustainable development goals. Indonesia has also acknowledged the role of CSO in addressing development challenges and accelerating SDGs achievement through multi-stakeholder partnership or MSP. Indonesia defined MSP as a form of cooperation based for voluntary agreement, mutual need, and active participation of stakeholders for a wide spectrum of institution, including government, business sector, civil society, NGO, CSO, and the other related parties. To manifest Indonesia commitment for MSP in 2019, the Ministry of National Development Planning launched the guidelines of multi-stakeholder partnership for the SDGs. The guideline were developed jointly with and for the national and local government, civil society organization, academia, business, philanthropy, SDG center, development practitioner, and all relevant stakeholders. So this is like the infrastructure for us. The regulation and the guideline are 2 examples of soft infrastructure institution for the collaboration to support role of stakeholder in participating and contributing to the SDGs integrated way effectively. Now I would like to give you the example of our best practices of innovative financing. I would like to, so I think that the first is one of the best best practice number 1 is Islamic blended finance to support the micro hydropower plant in Jambi province. In the implementation of blended finance for SDG Indonesia can be seen the macro hydropower project in Jambi. The project came out from the joint effort between the government of Indonesia, National Amil Zakat Agency, this is the Islamic finance, the Jambi Bank, and UNDP. It blended the financing sources from Zakat Fund, CSR Fund, and existing government renewable energy program, which is already funded by Global Environment Facility, Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources, and UNDP. And the project is quite successful and provide the electricity for more than 800 households from 4 villages in Jambi province. The second example is, so I would like to inform you that the potential Islamic finance in Indonesia is very, very huge. I think, for example, the potential of zakat is about US 16.2 billion or 3.4% of our GDP. This fund can be also accessed by CSO by becoming the implementing agency of the social development practice. National Amal Zakat Agency also opens the regular call for proposal to help CSO, community, or a foundation which engage in the social and community development program. Social religious fund, for example, zakat Indonesia has reached around 15 billion US dollar. However, only 1.2% or 240 million US dollar of the total are raised thus so far. Corporate social responsibility also has reached more than 859 million US dollar per year. So the next best practices from Indonesia is Sumba Iconic Island Initiative in Sumba Island. This project
I'll give you 2 minutes to wrap up, please.
Yes, the project is aimed to provide access to 100% renewable energy form. So the resources of this project, Sumba Iconic Island Initiative, comes from international NGO, local civil society organization, international donor, ADB, and the Norwegian embassy, and of course from the government of local governments. The third example, our best practices, is on social enterprises. There is Duanyam in East Nusa Tenggara that work closely with the talented women, the weaker workforce to economically empower and improve their health. Duanyam finance her own social enterprises, not only from their business revenue, but also attracting angel investors through the social impact approach. This independent and sustainable financing approach is expected to be scaled up and replicated by other social enterprise. So the next slide is I would like to inform you the next step and potential opportunity taken by the government Indonesia to develop. The first we have like the SDGs financing hub. The function of this SDGs financing hub is to coordinate, to financing coordination. The second is how we can pool the money, fund management. And the third is how we can develop the project and matchmaking. So it can help the service provider to enter feasible and marketable SDGs project. So, and the next step, there is an opportunity to scale up the social impact bond, in which the government will pay the investor for their contribution to social outcome and services, which will be examined by evaluators. The government of Indonesia, through my institution, currently working to assess the feasibility and the government impact bond, especially in renewable energy project. Later, this instrument also could be accessed by CSOs. So lesson learned, and
we need to go to the cream.
Yeah, this is the last slide. So the lesson learned that it must be, I believe that there is availability of potential financing resources in domestic. So please believe that. The second is should be the enabling environment and regulation. This is how we can attract SDGs to come, investors to come. Trust building between the government and the CSO. And the last thing is the capacity building for the CSO to access fund and deliver the work in SDGs related project. So it depends on the preparing the quality, feasible, and marketable project for SDGs set up, I think, by the service provider or by the CSO to attract the potential financing. So thank you very much. Hopefully my presentation based on Indonesia experience would be useful for you. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Dr. Siliwanti. I think it's an excellent opportunity to see the different views, as I've mentioned earlier, where we've seen multi-government or multilateral institutions like ICRC and ISDB of how they operate at different regions and different countries, but zooming into a country, a good model of Indonesia, how the government supports civil societies into engagement into achieving the SDGs. Now, very importantly, and don't forget, I'll come back to you, that Indonesia is one of the ISDB member countries, and it's also a G20 member country. And I hear also talks, and since you are engaged, so you might be also presiding on G20 very soon. I wish you all the best, but I think that's a good opportunity to bring in the civil society's agenda up to the high level, and the innovative financing, of course. Let us move to a different way of tackling and working with civil societies. It's an international NGO, non-governmental institution, very well known, highly credible, Save the Children. We have Richard Young here with us today, who is the partner manager of Save the Children, based in UK. But they're everywhere in the world. We know Save the Children very well. This is a huge institution. So we see that this is a different way of getting non-governmental institutions at a global level to be really impactful. What has made Save the Children unique, especially their engagement with these innovative financing to support civil societies? Over to you, Richard.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's clear.
Thank you very much for the invitation to take part in this meeting. And also thanks to all of the speakers so far. I found it very interesting so far. I've even taken a few photographs of the slides. I hope you don't mind that. I don't have any slides to present, and I'll try not to go on too long.
We will be pleased to continue watching you.
Yeah.
Let me remind just the audiences, if you allow me, please do post any questions you have on the chat while the speakers delivering their presentations or statements, so we can take them up later. I also have noticed, for the benefit of the audiences, that some of the speakers has posted links for the topics they're talking about. I see Tadamun and I see ISDB website on civil societies. So for the audiences, please, those are good references that you can reference to. Sorry for the interruption, Richard.
Oh, that's fine. It's good you mentioned Tadamun, because one of the things I wanted to start by saying was that we're very proud that the Humanitarian Leadership Academy, which is part of Save the Children UK, is a partner in the Tadamun program, and we're very excited by that. We're providing a learning platform called Kaya for civil society organizations all over the world, as part of the strengthening element of the Tadamun program. And we really commend the Islamic Development Bank for that initiative and for its policy to engage more with civil society and leverage civil society's strength. You've kind of said a few kind words about Save the Children. We are a very large organization. We work in 115 countries around the world. Many of those, of course, are Islamic Development Bank member countries. We have 25,000 staff around the world. And our mandate is to do, obviously, with children. And the three things that we focus on are that children should survive, thrive, and be protected wherever they may be in the world. We do that through programming, both in humanitarian context and development context, and also through campaigning and advocacy as well. To support all of those efforts, we, on the subject of innovative financing, and there's actually, I don't think, there's very few fundraising activities that we don't get ourselves involved in. We are a charity organization, and we actually live a hand-to-mouth existence in many ways. We're dependent on grants mostly, but also many philanthropy supporters, both great and small, partnerships with corporates, and also sort of fun fundraising activities like Christmas Jumper Day that we do in the UK and other places. So I could go on. I could talk about a lot of things. The focus today is innovative financing, and I thought that I'd just give a couple of examples of how Save the Children is exploring and experimenting with how a private capital can be brought to bear in support of our objectives and to advance the sustainable development goals. I'll give you a couple of examples of things that Save the Children is doing around the world, some initiatives. First is, it's actually a Save the Children Australia initiative, which is a new impact investment fund, which they've just launched. And that is going to be bringing in investment from family offices and other philanthropies in order to invest in ventures to achieve both a financial return for those investors and also to achieve social impact, which is aligned to Save the Children's goals. And this is part of, this is a response to a lot of discourse that's out there about investors being interested not only in financial return for their investments, but also wanting to see or being very aware of the social impact of their investments, and even wanting to see a positive social impact in the way that they are investing their money. So this is a fund which will enterprise in about, it will invest in about 10 enterprises over the next 10 years. It's relatively small, it's just a pilot, but we think that it's an important pilot and could be an important part of the Save the Children's future because as well, we have a great deal of expertise that we can bring to bear to support enterprises, to help them grow and to help them scale and to achieve more impact, because as well as investment, we can provide the benefits that come from our platform to do with back office support, technical expertise, and all of the relationships we have with other donor actors and governments around the world. So that's one example of how Save the Children is getting involved in the impact investment sphere. The second area that I wanted to talk about, and going back to what Juan was saying about development impact bonds, this is also an area which we are exploring and are very interested in. Juan, you mentioned the program in South Sudan, which doesn't look like it's going to go ahead. And that was an initiative, that was actually Save the Children Switzerland that was involved in that partnership. We're also looking at other impact bond structures, and our perspective on the impact bond is really as a service provider, as an organization that delivers programs on the ground. One that we are hoping is going to fly, and it's a slightly early stage at the moment, but we think it has great potential, is the Education Outcomes Fund. They've launched a program with the government of Sierra Leone to create a fund to finance initiatives to improve educational attainment for primary school children. And that's a development impact bond structure in which investors will provide the upfront capital, and then they will be repaid and they will make a profit if Save the Children achieves the targets that have been set by the program. And we have a program called Literacy Boost, which has a fantastic evidence base and track record of improving educational attainment. And we are hoping that by taking part in this development impact bond initiative, we will accrue even more evidence about the effectiveness of that intervention. And that will help us to scale it not only in Sierra Leone in the future, but it will also support our efforts to scale it around the world. So I think that that's something that's very we're very interested in terms of innovative finance. It isn't just about the finance necessarily. This is also about the impact and the increased evidence that you can generate and the learning you get through taking an innovative finance model. We think that the Education Outcomes Fund is a particularly well-designed program because it has elements like, for example, there's an extra payment for reaching marginalized children, and the government Sierra Leone is very invested in it and very data focused, and their commitment to it is a crucial element. But it's the impact really which is the most exciting thing. There's a learning crisis all over the world. Many children are out of school, of course. Many children are in school and they're not learning. And the powerful thing about the Education Outcomes Fund model, which we want to take part in, is the way that it focuses efforts on actually achieving learning for children, rather than just the inputs, the building schools or the training teachers or whatever it may be. Because by focusing on impact, we're able to actually show that the investment is worth making, and we can learn as well what works best to actually make a difference for children in their attainment. So those are just a couple of examples of what we're doing in relation to impact investing. The summary is we're extremely interested in it, but also we're going very carefully. Going back to another thing that Juan talked about, tools, and I'm going to reiterate that. There's potential as it's a new kind of tool, some of these innovative forms, but they're not going to replace all the other tools. They're an additional tool, and they're not the right tool for every job. Just like you wouldn't dig a hole with a circular saw, you would not use a dib to do more straightforward programming. You've got to be very selective about the kind of programming that you're going to do with it. And there could be downsides as well. I think that that's worth mentioning. If getting investors involved in financing projects, it creates complexity, and it potentially creates more cost as well. So we have to tread extremely carefully as we do this. The second thing is, again, echoing Juan, these tools are really complicated. Everybody who's done a development impact bond has talked about what a wrenching experience it was to adapt their processes and their systems and their expectations and the structures and the relationships to do it. And that goes for some of the most successful development impact bonds, like there's a very famous one in Rajasthan called the Educate Girls DIB. And they've talked about it completely transforming their organization and the way they think about how they deliver their projects and how they manage them as well. And I think that that's a crucial aspect. Most organizations are not ready to do this, and even large organizations like Save the Children, it's an uphill thing to do. So it's an ambitious sort of thing to do. The third thing is that there is a scale issue. DIBs have not got as big as people were expecting to do, and I commend the ISDB. It's finding solutions to those scale issues in its WASH model, and the Red Cross as well. This ambition to achieve scale is very admirable. Those are things that we've really got to find solutions for. I think an important point in innovative financing is it's a complementary thing to a wider world of conventional financing and grant financing and that kind of thing. And I think that one of the reasons that we are really interested in it is because of, I think that you don't really know, it's difficult to predict what the interaction is going to be between doing things on an innovative finance way and doing things in a grant way. Again, the Rajasthan DIB is an interesting example of that. They did a very, very small DIB. It was less than $1 million in terms of the delivery that it actually delivered. But on the back of the evidence that they generated from doing that, and on the back of the refinements they made to their intervention, they raised tens of millions of dollars of grant financing. And I think that that's an interesting example of how, by introducing an innovation into a system, that doesn't necessarily mean you're just that's going to be the basis of a new system. It's also going to interact with the old system. It's going to create new ideas, new opportunities, and new things. And I think one of the vital things in that is that focus on impact and the way that, for example, impact makes the effect of an investment, the effect of philanthropic support more visible. And that is a way of inspiring more philanthropy to towards more philanthropic finance towards the causes that we care about and towards the sustainable development goals. Just a few closing points. Have I got time just to say a couple of things?
Well, you have a bit of time to wrap up.
That's good. It slides take up lots of time, don't they? Just talking is different. I think that Juan talked about, like, it's the one in South Sudan. It ran into the sand. We've got to recognize that there's an enormous amount of inertia in every part of the system. That's the case for Save the Children and in the way that we deliver projects. That's in the case with the donors and the donor community. That is to do with governments and whether they are really interested in data-driven programming. And that's to do with philanthropies and the investment decisions that they make. The philanthropies sit on an enormous amount of money, but there's, on the one hand, there's the making the money, and then on the other hand, there's giving it away. And in many philanthropies, the link between those two things isn't really there.
And most importantly, making the impact.
Exactly. And then making impact is actually, I mean, that is expensive and it is very difficult. Outcomes are, even there are certain instances where even attempting to measure outcomes may not be appropriate because the benefit that you're having through a project might not even be measurable. So you've got to be very selective about how you use it. I'll make one final point before or maybe two. Civil society organizations generally don't have much money. Even Save the Children, we live a hand-to-mouth existence. Donors and philanthropists have to be very thoughtful about where they put the risk and trying to make sure that they don't put all of the risk on civil society organizations and their supporters. And they also need to make sure, going back to Juan again, they need to make sure that they're really supporting the systems and capacities of civil society organizations. And so we can make that transformation into a better future, a more impactful future. And that is going to cost money. And people have got to be able to make that commitment to supporting capacity rather than just bunging on the risk. And I think that that's very important. And I think that that's something, I mean, this is something that we're all big organizations on this panel, and we've all got to think about how we can make localization more real and keep on increasing the capacity and the ecosystem of civil society organizations. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Richard. I think that, Richard, you have touched upon a very important aspect related to how do other partners or different partners engage together to support civil societies and make sure they do deliver and create the impact we look for. We're coming back later with the more of what Juan has mentioned in the ICRC partnership together with Save the Children, as well as the engagement on Tadamon and others looking at the questions coming from the audiences. Now, let us conclude, at least on the speakers level at this panel, with women's wisdom. We always need it at the point. And here we invite Martina Petrovic. The unique situation of where Martina represents, or the institution, is that you got a mix of the largest UN institution, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and also how does that interact with civil societies. Now, you're lucky that your big boss at UNDP used to lead one of the international non-governmental organizations, IUCN, Akim Steiner, very well known, well appreciated, is our great partner. And we do a lot with UNDP. It's our unique UN institution partner. Of course, we are all familiar and aware of the UNDP outreach. They exist in almost every country in the world. And they work at all levels, governmental, non-governmental, multilateral. And it's the UN institution that connects with our DNA at the development, multilateral development institutions at the MDBs and the banks and the regional banks as well. But today we are going to hear from you, Martina, on a different aspect related to how do UNDP develop innovative finance through yourself being the co-founder of the UNDP Alternative Finance Lab. So we wish to hear about this, and how do you transform your mode of business from relying completely on UN budgeting and member country support to diversifying your resources. Over to you, Martina.
Thank you so much, Hakim. So I'm Marina Petrovic from United Nations Development Program, and today I will present how UNDP is using strategic innovation to address development projects and how we are using innovation to tackle world's most complex challenges. I'm part of the innovation team from the Istanbul Regional Hub, and I'm co-founder of the Alternative Finance Lab that works with different innovative finance and technology projects for development. We are using preventative finance, predictive finance, crowdfunding, crowd investment, bonds, and forecast-based financing to empower governments, partners, and local communities. We work across the sectors, and what is important to mention is that we never build just a project, but we work in parallel on building up an ecosystem, awareness raising, and creation of baseline for innovative projects to be recognized and adopted by governments, NGO sector, CSO sector, industries, and local communities. In our portfolio, we have digital impact currencies that connect diaspora with impact investment. We are using crowdsourcing to build up municipalities and cities. We're working a lot with impact platforms to support startups and NGOs. Or for example, we're also working with investment in renewable energy sources. One of our platforms called Citizen Energy gathers more than 40 countries globally. And so far throughout the platform, we have invested $44 million. We are also working with small local projects with which we are testing out local markets, and we are researching who are the new donors, who are the investors, and how diaspora is reacting on crowdfunding and fintech models. That's why we're also here, because together with our respective partners from Islamic Development Bank and Islamic Solidarity Fund for Development, we would like to present the joint project that we hope should have the groundbreaking impact for CSOs and NGOs coming from 57 countries from Organization of Islamic Cooperation. And of course, as our colleague Abdi already mentioned, the main aim of the project is CSO mapping and empowerment through crowdfunding and innovative impact mechanisms. The Diamond platform you can definitely find on internet. The Diamond community is an aggregating platform that will support crowdfunding projects or any kind of other innovative finance projects from CSOs and NGOs that will apply on crowdfunding academies in their countries. We have prepared Digital Crowdfunding Academy, and as Richard mentioned, together with Humanitarian Academy and Amazing Hub platform, we will create an interactive training with 11 education models done through gamification and one-on-one work with mentors. Of course, we will see and mention later during the webinar. Through our lab in the last 7 years, we have educated, I think, around 500 people, and we created more than 100 campaigns. With the Diamond so far, we had few train-of-train programs that were completely digital, online, and with participants from global countries. This is the last slide. I understand we don't have too much time. These are some of our activities that we plan for 2021. So we plan to work more on the crowdfunding, on empowering CSOs, NGOs. We definitely invite all of them who are listening to us today to sign up onto Diamond, to go onto Diamond, to do research on us, on our partners, to see what are the campaigns that we have there, and of course, to ask any kind of questions related to the platform and the program. Thank you.
Marina, thank you very much. This was very focused and indeed very informative. And not just that, to our audiences today from civil society, you gave them something for them to go away with. You invite them to join the Tadamon platform. It's a free costing to join for the civil societies. You get more engaged, you get networks, and you can put in questions and you can ask for support. And with the UNDP, you can't go wrong. So they will connect you with all the other institutions and organizations you've seen. This is done jointly with the ISDB, ISFD, and the different institutions working worldwide, ICRC and Save the Children, and I'm sure there will be more. So from global to regional to country level. And I think it's a very innovative way of crowding in resources, most importantly, the knowledge and expertise, because we do believe that civil societies know more solution tailors to their communities than us international institutions coming from outside and trying to support. Without them, we wouldn't really know what does it best fit for the local communities and what is not. So civil societies remain our hands and muscles to do things on the ground. I think that Marina, this is great, bringing that UNDP side to the story and complementing all the interventions that we had before. I've seen some of the questions here, but I would go back on the order. I think there was a question that probably applies to everyone. Basically, I'm trying to see where Erin has posted these questions. Here we go. To what extent do you think that CSOs in developing countries are capable to play a constructive role in implementing such innovative initiatives, especially innovative finance? Can they start it? Can they lead it? In the context of political and social instability, especially in fragile countries within their countries? And what specific capacity or area of knowledge or expertise they are missing and need supporting that you think you can help? So let me pose that question to Juan to start with, and then I'll hear from others as well. Juan?
Thank you for the question. I think that the first element of response is that the key is innovative financing approaches are collaborative approaches. Okay. And the different players need to come in with their comparative advantage. So it is clear that institutions that are well grounded in the field have a strong comparative advantage, whether thematic or in terms of understanding the context, etc. I think what civil society organizations on the ground need to be careful with is, as we were saying before, when it comes to financial mechanisms, particularly, these are cumbersome, complex, expensive. So rather than starting, or wanting to do everything, I think the conversation is more about teaming up with others to solve issues that are relevant to well. That's the access to education in South Sudan idea we worked on with Save the Children has been named a couple of times. So that was a good example. The needs are huge in South Sudan when it comes to access to education, for children affected by conflict.
What ICRC, Juan, can do to help specifically civil societies that lack that expertise? We're still zooming onto innovative finance. What yes. can you do to help those to really build that expertise?
My sense is that the one approach is to be part of a deal, of a project. That is the best way to learn.
Win-win partnership.
Yeah, win-win partnerships. And again, we're looking at innovative finance as a means to articulate partnerships across sectors, including with local actors on the.
Allow me to shift to Marina and see. I think I see Marina is just anxious to get into this directly related to the lab.
No, I was just also thinking something. I think the beauty of the digital area is that everybody is entitled to be a winner. There are no physical borders or education borders. What is important are the tools that you gather, are the tools that you learn, and how will you educate yourself and the people around you. How well you will then understand your position on the market. This is what counts. I think this is the beautiful thing of this digital area. Yeah, and the same goes for the civil society organizations that are coming from UK, from America, or from Somalia, or from Sudan. Everybody is entitled to be a winner. This is what counts. And I think maybe the CSOs that are even working in the fragile countries are in a better position because they understand the language, the local context. They can adapt the already existing models that exist there for centuries and just transfer it to digital area. That's why we're also here, because with Tadaman, we want to make this shift. there is no some sort of the organization in between. We are connecting directly CSOs with the global markets. We want for them to start communicate with the investors, with the supporters. We want for them to feel as part of the global communities. This is what counts. And that's why we have again Tadaman and all the empowerment through Digital Crowdfunding Academy. Yeah, sorry.
Excellent. That is indeed very useful. There is a specific question for Richard. It's very technical. Imad from the Children's Cancer Center of Lebanon, Beirut. He's new to impact investment, and he wanted to know a little bit, just a few words on impact investment from Richard specifically.
I don't know where to start. It really depends on that point about what the unique selling point, what are the particular strengths of your organization. I think that that's such an important thing to think about, because that is what you are bringing to the market. That might be to do with the particular initiative that you have, an answer, or it might be to do with the particular capacities that you have. And that could be to do with, for example, your meal capacity or the data that you have. But you've got to start from that. And then, because this is a much more of a market-driven kind of model. And so you've got to be so hard-nosed about what your product is. I'll just say one other thing, and that is just building on what other people have said as well. Everyone who gets involved in this kind of thing talks about what a learning experience it is as it goes along. So I think that the more flexibility in your approach and entrepreneurial energy and willingness to fail and try things new and move fast, that's a crucial aspect of the sorts of capacities and mindset that organizations need to have.
Okay.
I've made a couple of points. I'm quite happy to say more offline with the question.
That will encourage him to get back to you offline. But I wanted to hear from Siliwanti in Indonesia. How do governments play a role in supporting the CSOs? I mean, we've heard the question clearly coming out from the Humanitarian Academy for Development, and they were asking, how can you help CSOs to play their effective role? But we are interested to see the role of the government in this case, from your point of view. Siliwanti?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, how we can increase the role of civil society in to contribute to participate in our development, for example, in the case of Indonesia. So I think that the government of Indonesia, in this case, provide like the enabling environment, how the CSO role of CSO recognized, and also can stimulate the government also can help to stimulate potential financing resources to come to Indonesia. So that's why enabling environment is very important. And maybe one of the way is we can provide the regulation, how we can attract or stimulate the investors to come and can be accessed by the investor. But in the same time, I think that based on our experience here in Indonesia, how the CSO to access the finance is not just only merely rely on the government itself, but I think that they have to have like the capacity building, how to manage, for example, the activities, the project, the program that could be supported by potential financing resources. And the other thing is how the CSOs can set the design, the project, the quality of the project, feasible project, and marketable project. So I think that, like mentioned by UNDP, so I think that UNDP also can give the capacity building, how to prepare the marketable project for the SDGs. And also, I think that in the case of government of Indonesia, I think also provide Pak Hakim, the government of Indonesia also provides the capacity building in which actually the civil society would like to have like the capacity to access and also to deliver the project itself. And the other thing is how to expand the networks. Expand the networks, I think.
Okay, if I may interrupt you here, because Richard has highlighted the importance of how international non-governmental organizations like Save the Children, others as well as CRC, and we also at ISDB, we manage funds on behalf of philanthropies as well as governments. But one of the big questions that comes here, and there's a clear question from one of the audiences on accountabilities. How do governments help on your side to ensure accountability? If I'm an investor, and I want to pay for a certain community to develop a project, but I want to depend on a civil society. I want to see at least the government providing some accountability framework, or maybe a legal way that I am assured that these resources will be used for the purpose it is meant to. How can the government, that is a key role to make sure that building the credibility of these CSOs towards the investors as today. Money is not a question, by the way. I can assure you from a banking business, there's a lot of money out there, including for development, for business and investment, and for benefactors. It is about building that credibility and assurance that the money will definitely be used for impact bonds. We saw is one way, but I really want to see, does Indonesia provide any of that accountability scheme or system towards the CSOs to make sure that they're all audited, checked, and that the resources they generate or derive either from within the country or outside are actually used for the purpose it's intended for?
Yeah, I think that's I think that the accountability from the CSO itself is developed by them actually. So I think that the government of Indonesia just provide the environment, the regulation, how is the role of the CSO and how is the accountability of the CSO itself. But the format, how to accountable to the people, right? So it already been set up, I think, by the CSO itself here in Indonesia.
Okay, I have a number of questions for ISDB, Abdul Majid, that people are interested, but I would zoom on one. They're asking, does ISDB started already this program that you've mentioned, or is it still in the planning stage?
Thank you very much, Abdul Hakim. And this question, yes, the program has been approved in February 2019. The good aspect of the program is addresses critical points raised by the audiences, including how an NGO or a CSO in a conflict-affected country or a country that has been affected by fragility can access to land, innovative financing, as well as alternative financing. As Marina has explained, Tadamun is a platform that aims mainly three things. Number one, bringing all CSOs together to share their experience, best practice, and ideas. Second, to learn how to mobilize resources through capacity building of the Humanitarian and Learning Academy, as well as Crowdfunding Academy. So they will graduate, have a certificate, and learn how to mobilize resources and how to design and prepare campaigns at the regional level, national level, at district level, at village level. So we are training them to have that access. Second, thirdly, and more importantly, they will be able to boost their ideas, innovative ideas that can attract donors and partners like IDB and ISFD to provide seed money and matching funds. So the program has already been launched, active. It was launched in September 2019 at the UN General Assembly in New York. Now the platform is active. So what they need to do is just go and register. I already posted the link of the platform in the chat room. Please just register. We will categorize, screen, and map. And I think the question of accountability, Abdul Hakim, you are raising is very critical. So what we are facilitating is bringing the government, the MDBs, the INGOs, the big INGOs, and international agencies like ICRC and the Save the Children to come together and join hands to support national NGOs to have better experience and capacity.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Now, just to allow this to go, Erin, if you can help people when they post questions, they can post questions with their emails, and I think offline the panel will be, I'm sure, happy to respond to those questions offline. Mourouj will definitely help on coordinating this process, but do encourage all civil societies. But here you go, you have a live platform where you can actually engage directly with direct innovative ideas, with direct answers and direct guidelines. Now, my task we contracted me to do this moderation session is to see that the objectives of the session are well articulated, as well as the areas to be discussed are covered. And I would come to the concluding remarks by our Director for Resilience and Social Development, Abdullah Laham, who would hopefully tell us if we have achieved the outcomes that we were aiming to achieve. And I think today, if I was a civil society member listening to I've learned a lot on what these international institutions and countries and governments like Indonesia can provide to me if I'm representing a civil society. Also got new ideas of where to go and new innovative ideas of how to develop financing. So with Abdullah Laham, I would like to invite you for giving us closing remarks on behalf of the organizers of the Islamic Development Bank, zooming on the outcomes. Abdullah.
Well, thank you so much, Hakeem, for this and for the challenging questions that you put for me. Although I am confident that this session really achieved its purpose. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. Over the past 1 hour and a half, we have followed with great interest this session on enhancing the CSO sustainability through innovative financing, organized in conjunction with the C20, a vehicle for civil society organizations' engagement in the G20 process. We have heard from the distinguished speakers from NGOs, government, UN and MDB, in this case our Islamic Development Bank, on the importance of developing new financing instruments and tools that will bridge financing gaps and sustain the operations of CSOs to respond effectively and efficiently to the growing global needs of millions of affected populations. I am confident, this is an answer to you, Hakeem, I'm confident that the speakers did excellent job in contributing to the achievements of the objectives and expected outcomes of this session towards contributing to the G20 of a goal of realizing opportunities of the 21st century for all. We heard speakers sharing examples of financing models and tools they have developed. For example, the Tadamun or Solidarity Program that Abdi just mentioned and built on, the Ihsan Waqf Sukuk, the crowdfunding that our colleague from UNDP, Marina, just also highlighted, the development humanitarian impact bonds that was shared by both Save the Children and ICRC, the outcome-based mechanism, the education outcome fund, the zakat, green bonds, and financing for the SDGs highlighted by our colleague from Apenas. Speakers highlighted challenges, lessons learned, and best practices, the government CSO relationship, exactly what we have heard from our colleague, and country and program examples around mobilizing resources, working with CSOs, and shedding light on the need for effective coordination and collaboration among the various stakeholders to create and produce impactful results. The speakers clearly pointed the following as well, strengthening resource mobilization capacity and building systems of CSOs to function efficiently and diversify their sources of funding through introducing out-of-the-box solutions for financing for development and generating increased evidence on the impact of interventions. Also, they highlighted that it's important to build partnerships and alliances and establish an enabling environment for action and collectively achieving higher impact. In order for new financing models to succeed, stakeholders have to explore and test specific models and deals, build their organizational readiness, and contribute to build markets. Ladies and gentlemen, a couple of days ago, the C20 published a communique calling upon the G20 leaders to adopt just policies for inclusive recovery and restore faith in multilateralism and attend immediately to the climate and ecological crisis. Towards that, I encourage you all to download this communique and other communiques from previous G20 meetings. In the interest of time, and before I close the session, I would like to draw the attention of those interested CSOs who wish to become members of the C20 to go to the C20 website and register. I would like to take this opportunity to thank DG Diallo for his opening remarks and setting the stage for this interesting session. My thanks go as well to Dr. Hakim, who moderated this session and gave it life. I also would like to thank all the speakers for their enlightening, thought-provoking, and forward-looking presentations and deliberations. Thank you also to the organizing teams from the C20, including the TIC moderator and the Islamic Development Bank, and all those behind the scenes from the various participating institutions. Special thank you to all the participants and audience for their online contributions that will help shape the way forward. I also take this opportunity to encourage the audience to share their thoughts on the C20 Summit using the hashtag C20 Summit. Finally, there is a great need to build on the outcomes of this session and keep the ball rolling to ensure there is no one left behind and ensure our collective assistance has greater impact on the affected communities and those most in need. With that, I thank you again and goodbye.